I always pray and ask the Lord what He wants to say to the church, even though I preach every night somewhere almost, yet I have to make out a new message. Now, teachers can take an outline. Peter Wagner, you just take an outline, you can just follow him word for word. I said, I could read that at home, but prophets can't do that. It's just, we got to go with the flow. So I just was seeking the Lord and what He really wanted. I want to share some things with you. Basically, knowing and fulfilling your membership ministry and your highest calling. I started doing some mentoring. My board of governors told me, said, Bishop, you're getting to the age, you need to bring the people to you more than you go into them all the time. So I started mentoring, and I have some of my board of governors who are in the business where they teach positive thinking and success principles and charge big money for people to come. They said, you could do that. So we tried it, and so I sent out word that I was going to do a mentoring day, certain time, Friday noon to Saturday noon. I would lay hands on each one, prophesy to them, share with them things you can't share in the pulpit about how you make it all the time. Because I tell you, I remember our 50th anniversary, my wife and I was talking and said what we'd accomplished. And I said, if we're still alive and we haven't gone off doctrinally, morally, or financially, or socially, we're still in the middle of the road. That's a miracle. Amen. In my 65 years of ministry, I've seen so many people with so much potential way up there than punch. And there are certain things you have to know. I remember I started pastoring at the mature age of 19 in 1954. How many were not on planet Earth in 1954? Several of you. Amen. And I just come out of Bible college, and the president of that college had inflamed our young minds with the fact that we were the generation that was going to change the world. We were going to take over, we're going to do it all. And so I came up, fired up, ready to go. To give you an idea, they had a radio program, and I got up there at 19 years old and said, thank God I'm in this world, the devil's in this world, one of us has got to go, and it's not going to be me. Hallelujah. But the Lord, in His great wisdom and maturity, sent me to a little church in Yakima Valley, Washington, and they'd had 4 years of continuous revival. And then the pastor died, and then they had split after split after split. When I got there, they split over where they should split again. They split over Jesus' name, baptism, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, pre-trib, post-trib, bid-trib, no-trib. Everything. And so when I got there, there's just about 35 people, and they were singing, I shall not be moved. And I couldn't move them. I remember one night, I prayed I was single, and I prayed all day long, and they had these great big oak benches there. It takes 6 people to move one of them, and I got so fired up, I walked across top of those benches, prophesying, sparks flying off the end of my finger. They looked up and said, what's he doing? So I've discovered God makes the man before He makes the ministry. Because your ministry and gift can only endure as long as your character is there. So God has to, Saul went immediately into ministry and he failed. David went immediately into calling of God, but he went through 17 years of preparation. He had to kill his lion and his bear, then his giant, then be captain over 1,000 and run from Saul and go through a zigzag experience, and finally came to partial fulfillment at Hebron, then eventually to Jerusalem in full fulfillment. And those who God takes through the process. I meet so many young people nowadays, they want to start at the top. I want to be where you are right now. And I have to tell them, the only place you start at the top is digging a hole. You don't go instant from baby to adulthood. You have to go through the process. And every one of us is called. And in my mentoring, I charge them $1,500 for individual and $2,000 for a couple. And when I said I only limited to 20 seats, and couple was a seat, and it filled up in 10 days. And I got another one coming this October the 12th, and I still have about 5. I said, just send it out, I got about 5 seats left in that. But I'm going to share some of this with you. It's not going to cost you that much. Unless you give a big offering. Amen. Hallelujah. But the thing that when I wrote the book on the Day of the Saints, talking about the 7 mountains and where every saint has a ministry. Come on, every saint has a ministry. How many saints we have here? Just a few Catholics waiting until they get in the stained glass window, okay. But you've got a ministry, you've got a calling. Then everyone that has a calling has a uniqueness. But in fact, Paul says it this way: you are the body of Christ, and members in particular. The body's one, but it's got many members. Then it says some are like an eye, some are like an ear, some a hand, some a heart, some a lung. Everybody is a member, but no two exactly alike. Just like your fingerprints, you got out of that 7 billion people, no two got the same. I don't know how many angels are having to guard that, make sure it works, but it's working. How many know when God made you, he made a brand new mold, and as soon as he finished with you, he threw it away and said, never again. According to your self-image, take that, amen. You're special. Nobody else like you. Come on. That's the reason I tell people, the first 2 commandments, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. What's the second one? Love your neighbor how? As you love yourself. Some of you, I would not want you to love me like you love yourself. You criticize yourself, you look in the mirror and say, yak, and you criticize yourself, belittle yourself, doubt yourself, question yourself. Please don't love me like you love yourself. You gotta be happy. You gotta look in the mirror and say, you cute critter, I like you. You gotta be happy in your skin. Mine keeps stretching, but I'm still happy. Amen. You got to accept yourself for who you are. I remember my mother-in-law, I got married, of course, like most people, I inherited a mother-in-law. And in the spirit, she'd give tongues, I'd give interpretation, we'd prophesy together, the minister would cast out demons together. But the moment we got out of the spirit, it's like rubbing cat fur backwards and sparks flew, And I started praying one day. I said, God, you got to change that woman. I'd get the young people in, and then she'd say, oh, you can quit smoking, God. And then you'd fit. She'd drive them away, and I'd get them in. And I said, and then she was, love, you got to love. And I was wild faith, boom, boom, And she said, oh, and it was opposites. And I said, God, you got to change her. I fasted 3 days and 3 nights. It's dangerous to start praying for people. And I said, God, do something. He says, well, you got a problem, don't you? I said, yes. He says, well, you're 2 opposite people. That was before you had the personality profiles, the life language and all of that, so you just didn't understand other human beings. And he said, well, you want me to make you like her or her like you? I said, oh, God, don't make me like her. But that was the days of the Fonz. But I said, hey, me? Hey, man, no problem. Like most of us, And so finally God told me, he said, meditate. Then finally he said, I tell you what, you want to get the victory? I said, yes. Here's what you want to do. He gave me a truth that's helped me be a bishop, helped me be a husband, helped me be a lot of things. He said, give her the right to be herself. You mean I got to give her the right to be her dumb, stupid self? Obnoxious, frustrating self? Yes. He said, do you know I love her just like she is? I said, how can you, God? Did you ever wonder how God can love somebody who you can't stand? And God uses them and you'd want to kill them? But God always has somebody to help you grow in perfection. And sometimes you marry it, sometimes you birth it, sometimes you work with it, sometimes you hired it, sometimes you're working for it. But God's got somebody, because the fruit of the Spirit is grown. And see, when I teach in my mentoring, I teach on your highest calling. It's not the greatest apostle of churches around the world. I'm an apostle over 3,000 churches around the world, 1,000 in the United States, and I travel 70 nations and travel the world and all that. That's not the highest calling. Working miracles, casting out devils, raising the dead, that's not the highest calling. Being an evangelist, winning millions to the Lord, thousands, a pastor of hundreds of thousands. We're just in a church of a pastor of 100,000 recently. And that's not the highest calling. Being a teacher, written 100 books and got all the truths in the world, that's not the highest calling. The fivefold ministry is not your highest calling. And if you get anything between you and your highest calling, you're in for some fear, some sense of failure, discouragement, because you don't understand why life takes you through some things. But see, your highest calling is not what man and what most ministers portray. Your highest calling is Romans 8:29. Now, see, I can tell how many know those scriptures, because I don't see lights coming on in very many. How many know what Romans 8:29 says? It says, whom he did foreknow, he also did he predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son. Wow. Your highest calling to be like Christ. I ask my students sometime, if man had never sinned, what would have been God's plan for man? Oh, I know it's more. I wrote the book on Who Am I, Why Am I Here? 8 reasons why God created the human race. Worship is number 7, fellowship's number 8, but there's 6 before that, more relevant, personal, and more eternally personal meaning for God. And I said, if man had never sinned, what would have been his purpose? Well, Genesis 1:27 says, he created man, he said, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth with your kind. Now, God made man how? In his own image and likeness. And it says, now, I'm going to give you a special power, Adam, but you can't do it now. You're missing something. He said, yeah, I know. I was naming all the animals. Now, notice every papa bear, there was a mama bear. Long-necked giraffe, there was a mama long-necked giraffe. Big fat hippopotamus, there was a mama hippopotamus. And I said, I kept looking. Mine must be just around the next tree. And he says, I've been looking for my comparable and compatible helpmate, like some of your old bachelors and maids. And month after month, he named all the animals. And finally, God came walking with me and says, Adam, you look concerned. What's the problem? He says, God, I think Adam must have been a little Italian. He says, I notice everybody's got a somebody, I got a nobody. I can't find that comparable and compatible mate. I mean, laughing hyena, oh no, I mean, I look dogs, cats, chickens, lions to roar, I just didn't feel compatible. How many singles do we have here? Come on, how many? You're still looking for that one you feel compatible with. One man told me the other day, well, I'm waiting for the perfect woman. I said, there's a problem. I said, what's that? Well, she'll be looking for the perfect man, you'll never get married. There's no perfect ones. You have to make them perfect. No. And but God says, you do need a helpmate, because my overall plan requires you reproduce, and you can't reproduce by yourself. Because God didn't make Adam and Steve, he made Adam and Eve. Amen. And said, Adam, no problem, I can fix your problem. He says, good. He gave him a little knockout drop. Adam rested in the Lord, and God went to work. Dum, 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 da, dum, 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 da, dum, dum. And he just kept working. Got it all finished. He said, I think Adam's going to like this. You're going to like it when it gets there. And so Adam woke up. God kicked his, wake up, Adam. And he looked over to wife and I, and oh, God, fat hippopotamus. Oh, no, God. Long neck, over here, Adam. I'll take it, God. Now, you have to be 80 to say this. But Adam's the only man I know that the first time he saw a naked woman started prophesying. Got to be 80 to say that.